I was born in a small town in a tiny house with broken windows and an old wooden door. My parents worked very hard, but we were always poor. My father was a carpenter making furniture for other people, but we never had beautiful furniture in our own home. My mother washed clothes for rich families, but we never had expensive clothes to wear. As a little girl, I watched other children play with dolls and new toys. I only had one doll, and it was old, with missing hair and a torn dress. But I still loved her. My dream was simple. I wanted happiness, love, and a better life. When I grew up, I got a job as a waitress in a small cafe. It was a simple job, but I was happy because I could help my family. Every day I served coffee, tea, and sandwiches to customers. Some were kind. Some ignored me like I was invisible. One day I was wiping a table when I heard the soft sound of the doorbell ringing. I turned around and saw a man. He was tall, with dark brown hair and eyes that looked calm but sharp. He wore a suit that looked very expensive, and his shoes were so clean they almost sparkled. He looked different from the usual customers. Most of the people who came to the cafe were workers, students, or elderly people who loved to drink tea. But this man looked like someone from a different world. I quickly walked behind the counter. He slowly looked around the cafe and then walked to a table near the window. "What would you like, sir?" I asked in a soft voice, trying to sound polite. He looked at the menu for a second and then smiled. "Just a black coffee, please." His voice was smooth and warm. It made me nervous. I nodded and rushed to prepare his order. As I placed the coffee on his table, he looked up at me. "Thank you," he said with a small smile. I felt my face turn red. No rich man had ever looked at me like that before. The next day I was busy serving customers when I saw him again. He walked into the cafe looking just as elegant as before. He sat at the same table near the window. I was surprised. Why would a rich man come back to a small cafe like this? I took a deep breath and walked up to him. "Would you like black coffee again, sir?" He smiled. "Yes. But this time I'd also like a piece of chocolate cake." I nodded quickly and went to get his order. I didn't know why, but I felt excited. From that day on, he came every afternoon. He always sat at the same table near the window, drinking his coffee slowly. Sometimes he would read a book. Sometimes he would look outside, lost in thought. But every time I served him, he smiled and said, "Thank you." I began to feel curious about him. Why did he always come alone? Didn't rich men have busy lives? Didn't they have fancy restaurants to go to? One day when I served his coffee, he looked up and asked, "What's your name?" I was surprised. Customers usually didn't ask for my name. I hesitated for a second and then said, "Anna." "Nice to meet you, Anna," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Daniel." I nodded, feeling shy. "Nice to meet you too." I quickly walked back to the counter, my heart beating fast. Why was he being so friendly? The next day he spoke to me again. "Anna, do you like working here?" I didn't know what to say at first. No customer had ever asked me that before. "Well," I said, "it's not a bad job. I get to meet nice people. And I need the money to help my family." He looked at me with interest. "That's very responsible of you." I smiled a little. "What about you? What do you do?" He took a sip of his coffee. "I own a company." I wasn't surprised. He looked like a businessman. But I didn't know what to say. His life seemed so different from mine. "Is it a big company?" I asked, just to keep the conversation going. He chuckled. "Yes, it's quite big." I nodded, not knowing what else to say. I had never spoken to a rich man before. Over the next few weeks, we talked a little more every day. Sometimes he asked me about my life. I told him about my family, my little house, and my dreams. "What's your biggest dream, Anna?" he asked one afternoon. I hesitated. No one had ever asked me that before. "I just want a happy life," I said softly. "I want to take care of my parents and maybe have my own little cafe someday." He smiled. "That's a beautiful dream." Then he told me about his life. He had traveled to many countries. He had met important people. But something about his voice told me he wasn't truly happy. One day I asked, "If you have everything, why do you always come to this little cafe?" He looked at me, and for the first time I saw sadness in his eyes. "Because," he said, "this place feels peaceful." I didn't understand completely, but I nodded. One evening it started raining heavily. The sky was dark and the sound of raindrops hitting the windows filled the cafe. It was almost closing time and only a few customers remained. Daniel was still sitting at his usual table, sipping his coffee. I went to the door and looked outside. The streets were wet and the wind was strong. I felt worried. When I turned around, I saw Daniel watching me. "Do you have an umbrella?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, but it's okay. I'm used to walking in the rain." He frowned and looked outside. Then he stood up and walked toward me. "Wait here," he said. He walked out of the cafe and into the rain. I watched as he went to his car and came back holding an umbrella. "Take this," he said, handing it to me. I stared at him in shock. "But what about you?" He smiled. "I have another one in the car." I held the umbrella in my hands, feeling warm inside. No one had ever done something like this for me before. That night, as I walked home under the umbrella, I couldn't stop thinking about him. The next afternoon, Daniel walked into the cafe, but this time he didn't sit at his usual table. Instead, he walked straight to the counter where I was standing. "Anna," he said with a small smile, "I have a question for you." I blinked. "Yes." He took a deep breath. "Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow?" My heart stopped for a second. I looked at him, not sure if I had heard correctly. A dinner?" I asked, my voice shaking. He nodded. "Yes, a real dinner. Just you and me." I felt my face turn red. No man had ever asked me out before, especially not someone like him. I wanted to say yes, but I was also scared. Would I fit into his world? Would people laugh at me? I looked into his kind eyes, and after a moment I took a deep breath. "Okay," I whispered. He smiled. "Great. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7. As he left the cafe that day, I touched my chest, feeling my heart beat faster than ever before. I never thought a man like him would notice a poor girl like me. But he did. He took me to a fancy restaurant with golden chandeliers and soft music. But as soon as I stepped inside, I felt out of place. The people there were wearing expensive clothes, and they looked at me strangely. The table had many forks and spoons, and I didn't know which one to use. My hands were shaking. I felt embarrassed. Daniel noticed and whispered, "Don't worry. Just be yourself." His words made me feel better, but deep inside I knew I did not belong in his world. After our first date, Daniel and I started spending more time together. He still came to the cafe every afternoon, but now we talked even more. Sometimes after my shift, we would take a walk in the park. The trees were tall and the air was fresh. The sun felt warm on our faces and the wind made my hair dance. One evening, as we sat on a wooden bench, Daniel looked at me with soft eyes. "I feel peaceful when I'm with you," he said. I looked at him surprised. "Really?" He nodded. My life is very busy. My phone is always ringing. People expect me to be perfect all the time. But when I come here, when I talk to you, I feel free. I smiled. I don't think I've ever heard a rich man say that before. He chuckled. Because most people think money means happiness. But it doesn't. I tilted my head. It doesn't. He sighed and looked up at the sky. The stars were starting to shine. We sat quietly for a moment. Then Daniel turned to me, his voice softer than before. Anna, he said, there's something I want to tell you. I looked at him, waiting. He took a deep breath. I was born into a rich family. Ever since I was a child, my life was planned for me. My parents told me what to study, what to wear, and even who to be friends with. They always said, you must be the best. You must make our family proud. I listened carefully. I had never thought about how hard a rich person's life could be. I worked hard and built my company, he continued. People respect me. Some even fear me. But no one really knows me. I frowned. What do you mean? Daniel looked down at his hands. I have money, but I don't have real happiness. People around me only care about my wealth. They smile at me because they want something. They don't see me as a person, only as a rich man. His words made my heart ache. I don't know who my real friends are, he said. And I don't know if I've ever felt real love until I met you. My breath caught in my throat. He looked into my eyes. You don't care about my money. You talk to me like a normal person. You make me laugh. You listen to me. With you, I feel like I can be myself. I didn't know what to say. I had always thought rich people had perfect lives. But Daniel was telling me something different. I reached for his hand and held it gently. You're not just a rich man to me, I said softly. You're Daniel. And I like you for who you are. His eyes softened. He squeezed my hand. At that moment, I felt something special between us. Something real. After that night, our bond grew even stronger. Sometimes after work, Daniel would take me for a drive. We would listen to soft music as the city lights shone outside the window. Other times we would walk by the river, watching the water shimmer under the moonlight. He would tell me stories about his childhood, how he had everything but felt lonely. I told him about my childhood too, how we didn't have much but my family was full of love. One night as we stood on a small bridge, he whispered, I wish I had grown up like you. I laughed. But I always wished for a life like yours. He smiled sadly. Maybe we both wanted what we didn't have. Daniel started doing sweet things that made my heart melt. One day I had a long, tiring shift at the cafe. My feet hurt and I felt exhausted. When I walked outside, I found Daniel waiting for me with a small bag. What's that? I asked. He grinned. Your favorite chocolate cake. My eyes widened. How did you know? I remember everything you say, he said with a wink. I laughed and took the cake. My heart felt warm. Little by little, I started to realize something. I was falling in love with him. One evening, Daniel and I sat by the lake watching the sunset. The sky was painted in soft pink and orange. He suddenly grew quiet. What's wrong? I asked. He hesitated, then said, I'm scared. Scared of what? He sighed. I know my parents won't accept you. My heart dropped. I had always known this was coming, but hearing him say it made it real. They want me to marry someone rich, he said. Someone with a powerful family. I looked down at my hands. So, what are you going to do? He took my hand in his. I don't care what they want. I only care about what I want. And I want you. My heart pounded. But it won't be easy, he continued. They will try to separate us. I swallowed hard. Then we'll fight together. Daniel smiled, his eyes full of love. Yes. Together. A few days later, Daniel called me. My parents want to meet you, he said. I felt my stomach tighten. Really? He sighed. Yes. But I need to warn you, they're not happy about it. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I knew this day would come. I'm ready, I said. Daniel's voice was gentle. No matter what happens, just remember, I'm with you. The next day I stood in front of his family's giant mansion, my heart pounding. I had no idea what was waiting for me inside. But I knew one thing for sure. I loved Daniel. And I was ready to fight for our love. He took me to his parents' house. It was a huge mansion with tall gates, big gardens, and a swimming pool. I had never seen such a beautiful place before. But inside I felt small. His mother looked at me from head to toe and said coldly, Daniel, she is not one of us. His father didn't even talk to me. He just looked away. I knew they did not like me. They wanted him to marry a rich girl, someone who knew their world. I was just a simple girl from a poor family. I was nothing in their eyes. But Daniel held my hand and said, I don't care what they think. I love you. Daniel's family did everything to separate us. They sent him on long business trips. They invited rich girls to their home and introduced them to him. They even told lies about me, saying I wanted his money. One day his mother came to me and said, if you love Daniel, you will leave him. You are only bringing him problems. That night I cried. Was she right? Maybe Daniel would be happier with someone else. Someone who understood his world. But Daniel came to me and said, I will fight for us. His words gave me hope. But the road was not easy. Every day I was afraid that one day he would leave me. I was afraid he would realize I did not belong in his world. I had no money, no fancy clothes, no expensive education. I loved him, but was love enough? Then one day Daniel did something I never expected. He took me to a small, quiet park. Under a big tree, he held my hands and said, will you marry me? I was shocked. I did not know what to say. My heart was full of joy but also fear. I looked into his eyes. Daniel, are you sure? Your family will never accept me. He smiled. I don't need their approval. I just need you. Tears filled my eyes. I knew life with him would be difficult, but I loved him. So I said yes. Daniel's family was very angry. They stopped talking to him. They told him he was making a mistake. But Daniel did not change his mind. We got married in a small, simple wedding. No big party, no expensive decorations. Just us, our close friends, and my family. It was the happiest day of my life. At first, life was hard. We did not have the support of his family. But Daniel worked hard and I supported him in every way. Slowly things changed. His family started to see that I was not after his money. They saw that I truly loved their son. One day his mother came to me and took my hands. She looked into my eyes and said, I was wrong about you. That day I knew we had won. Now we are happy. We have a simple life full of love. I learned an important lesson. Love is not about rich or poor. It is about understanding, patience, and never giving up. When two hearts truly belong together, nothing can break them apart. The story is over. Please support us by subscribing and liking to follow our channel. I hope you learned something new today. See you next time. Thanks for watching.